Hello, fine people of Soldier Fit. It is Workout Wednesday. Last week we covered your kettlebell deadlift, and this week we're going over the transition to a barbell deadlift. First things first, we need to talk about some things you need to keep in mind. One, the debate between sumo and conventional positions. It does not matter which one you pull in. One is not better than the other. It is all based on what works better for your body leverages and your own individual mechanics. Personally, I prefer sumo. It lets me get a little bit more tension into the ground, I can pull heavier weight, and honestly, I have fairly long legs and I don't like having to take that big of a breath where it takes me 9,000 years to stand up a conventional deadlift. That's just me. That doesn't mean that you need to pull one way or the other. Find what works best for you and rock with it. Secondly, if you are a beginner and you are just starting your barbell adventure, please, 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 I will beg, I will plead, I will implore you, do not wear your running shoes to deadlifts. Take them off. I'm talking to all of the sneakerheads right now. Stop creasing your shoes, take them off. Reason being, one, when you have big cushy shoes on, whether it's an Air Max, whether it's a Nike, an Under Armour, or whatever, you are rolling your feet within the shoe to try to get tension through the floor. If you're doing that, you're not able to properly set your hips, you're not able to get an effective drive into the floor. Take them off, learn how to push the floor away from you. So, backtracking to what we talked about last week, we talked about how the deadlift is a hinge position. It is a hinge movement. I am not yanking the deadlift off the floor. I am pushing the floor away from me, and I just happen to be standing up with weight in my hands. So, big thing to keep in mind, when you're getting set up for your deadlift, you need to focus on form first. The weight will come. Now getting into the technical of this, I need to change my shoes. All right, guys, so now that you are in the proper footwear, either a flat shoe like a Chuck, you can find a deadlift slipper, or you can just do my personal favorite, in socks, you are gonna work on how you're gonna set up this bar. So approaching the conventional deadlift first, because this is what most people are familiar with, we are gonna cover how you set up, proper form, and how you're actually gonna improve your deadlift position. So when you are approaching the bar, it is midfoot under the bar. It is not toes underneath the bar. It is not shins touching the bar. Midfoot under the bar allows you to move optimally, meaning you are pairing your upper body and your lower body mechanics together for an effective push-pull mechanism that is going to allow you to move a substantial amount of weight without putting your lower back at play. When people tell you the deadlift is a back movement, they're not wrong, but they're not right. Squats, bench, and deadlift, when done correctly, are full body movements. One does not just adhere to one certain muscle group. So, how we make sure we are using all of our muscle groups together is by putting our midfoot underneath the bar. So feet generally for conventional, for people who are starting, will be about shoulder width, maybe a little narrower, maybe a little wider apart. Your toes, for those of you who are beginning and just learning how to get traction and contracting your hamstring and your glutes, make sure your toes are 45 degrees. If you're going straight forward, you're not gonna get as much posterior chain contraction, and that's really what is gonna change the game for you. So once we have our feet set, you're gonna push the hips back behind you. It's a bow and arrow mechanism. You are pulling the hips back, hinging back. I'm not squatting down with my pelvis rolled underneath of me. So I'm gonna push the hips back, knees will bend. I will set my hands outside of my feet or outside of my shins for conventional. I'm going to pull my shoulders and my chest back, push the floor away from me, and stand up. Do the exact same motion to put the bar down. When you are at the top, you are not squeezing all the way through. This is not My Little Pony. We're not hunting for rainbows. There's no Lucky Charms, elf to chase. Do not exaggerate your pull. Once your shoulders are in line with your hips, you are at the locked out position. You do not need to heave back. There's no advantage to heaving back. The only thing you're doing is increasing your chances of hurting your back, which is why we are doing this in the first place, to keep you healthy and to keep your back healthy. So from the side, so you can see what this looks like. All right, so to show this from the side, same thing. We are getting our feet midfoot under the bar, toes 45 degrees out. I'm pushing my hips back. I am pulling my hands to the bar, allowing my shoulder blades to compress. Think of an accordion. Your shoulders and your hips are pushing together. We are creating tension. That is what we are looking for. Hips back, pulling down into the shoulders, push the floor away from us. You always put your deadlift down the same way you picked it up. Please do not get to the top of your deadlift and let go thinking that, oh, I just did something cool. You didn't. Unfortunately, when you drop your deadlift from the top and it's really heavy, you have to think you just spent all that time getting into the correct form, getting tight, setting your muscles in a certain way so you can have an effective and an efficient pull that isn't gonna lead you to be injury prone. When you drop it from the top, you just became a slinky. Everything loosened up, your body recoils, the bar hits the floor, which actually increases your likelihood of hurting your back. So if you're one of those people who drops their deadlift from the top, please, 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 there's a lot of begging this episode, don't drop your deadlift from the top. So guys, we're gonna rehash this real quick. Tips and tricks for your deadlift. Think about pushing the floor away from you. I'm not pulling the bar off the floor, I am pushing the floor away from me. This will help you in your mind and your mental image. Think about getting tight, pulling the shoulders towards my hips, maybe using the accordion metaphor, and then pushing the floor away from you, which will help set your back. If you think I am pulling this off the floor, we think about getting long. We think silly putty, we think Play-Doh, we think anything that is going to extend. The issue with this is when you do that, you're forgetting a very vital part of your deadlift, which is your lower body engagement. So deadlift, make sure we are pushing the floor away from us, getting your feet set, play with your position. Your feet, due to your stance and due to your height, might be a little more narrow, might be a little wider, but you wanna make sure that you're not in a shoe that is extremely elevated. You wanna make sure you can get contact with the floor. I personally like my Chucks. You can get tight into the floor, set your legs first. I think about rotating my feet into the floor, corkscrewing, knees going out, set my back, and then I pull. Make sure you guys tune in next week because we're gonna go over the difference between conventional and sumo deadlifts, but we are gonna baby step our way through this information one bite at a time. I'll see you guys next week. Leave comments below for movements that you would like done, questions you might have, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.